Alright, let's go over the changes for Team G.A.W. starting off with Antonov. So honestly, not a whole lot to go over, almost not worth making a video on Antonov, but let's just go through. So Close is going to have reduced overall frames by 3, and they're going to increase the distance recognition. So in other words, this is going to recover a little bit faster, so you could kind of actually link it together, but you're just going to have to watch out for getting the auto combo. And then you can get this from a little bit further away, so you could set this as sort of a frame trap and bait out wake up tech grabs. And then next up, Close C, broaden distance recognition, so you can get this from a little bit further away. You could probably helps you out with the frame traps like this. Next up, Close B, reduce overall frames by 5, so it recovers faster. Honestly, not that big of a deal. These changes so far have been pretty minor. Next up, Far D, reduce hurt box, so this is going to be able to anti-air better without trading as much. So that's a little bit good for him. And then lastly, the Punch Super. Now only the first and last hits can KO, that's whatever. Reduce recovery after a hit, that's whatever's. Longer follow up after a block, that sounds like a glitch fix. And then greatly reduce landing recovery. So honestly, that doesn't really change anything for Antonov. It still does the same damage, it still combos off of the usual stuff. The wake up situation afterward is still the same. So yeah, that's really it for Antonov. But again, nothing major. Honestly, it's pretty much the same. Alright, let's move on to Ramon. Alright, so Ramon doesn't have too many changes. He does have a couple of new things, but nothing that's gonna drastically change him as a character. So first up, Forward B is gonna recover a couple frames faster. Forward D is gonna start up a little bit faster as well, making this a more efficient button as an anti-air. Blowback's gonna be a little bit faster as well, and they're gonna increase the cancel window by 4 frames, which I don't think is that big of a deal, because if you're gonna cancel this, you might as well just do it on block or a hit or whatever. There's really no benefit in canceling it later. Next up, the hard version of this is now going to be invulnerable to grab, so this can be used as a kind of a delayed grab setup. But I don't think that's really that big of a deal, because you can just do something like this, which is harder to see coming. Next up, Feint Dash. This one's pretty interesting. So out of his Feint Dash, if you hit out of the follow-ups, if you do the Feint version, let me just do this, it's actually gonna have a hitbox, which is kind of interesting. He can't really get anything off of this except Far C into a quick max, so that is something, but it's a little bit hard to utilize. So the only application that I see is coming out of the corner, where you meeting them with this, and then you just go into a whole combo and quick max out of it. So again, it's kind of a cool tool, but because it's going to be hard to utilize, I don't think it's going to be that useful or change them in the grand scheme of things. Speaking of the feint step, they're going to add an EX version. So this move here now has an EX version. So the EX version of these, all the follow-ups will reach them if the opponent is in the corner. Previously, if you do anything, Ramon's going to stop short and he won't reach. But when you EX, it will do more damage, so 160 there. Let me see the regular version, 120, and you can still do the follow-ups. So that's something that's good for him. The kick follow-up will also do more damage and reach full screen. And the feint dash doesn't really have any differences. It still does the 65 damage, and you're still gonna be able to follow up either way. So kind of cool, but again, nothing that's drastically new for Ramon. And then the feint step version, light version, they're gonna reduce the overall frames by 5, so again, that just adds to this being very plus, allowing him to follow up with Far C. So yeah, in the grand scheme of things, Ramon is not that different of a character. While he does have some new stuff here and there, it's kind of not enough to make him more interesting or fun as a character. I think SNK could add a little bit more, kind of like what they've done with, Ryo and Luang and other characters. So yeah, he could still use a little bit more. Alright, on to King of Dinosaurs. Alright, so King of Dinosaurs doesn't have too many changes himself. Team G.A.W. in general is actually the least changed team in the entire roster aside from the DLC team. But let's go through and see what we got here. So Farsi is going to come out a couple frames faster. That's a little bit of a buff. Jumping B, which is already a cross up, is going to cross up even better because they're going to expand the hitbox backwards. And then next up, his Assault Raptor hard version is going to have a better grab box here, so it's going to grab a little bit more accurately as long as it's reaching. the A version of this, on the first hit, the opponent's knockback duration is going to be increased, so they're going to be in hit stun for a little bit longer, which means you can kind of continue your pressure like that. Yeah, you could stop short because most opponents are going to expect the second hit to come out or for you to super cancel, but you can just kind of keep pressuring there because they're going to be in hit stun longer. On the EX version of this, so previously if you block this move, there's a chance that if you're stop blocking or you try to counter attack in between, you could get hit by the third hit. But here I'm holding forward or trying to jump out, and it's going to be a true block stream the whole way through. So if you block the first hit, you're going to get the full punish on King of Dinosaurs if he does this on block. Next up, the air grab. So let me see if I can. So this is going to change from 200 damage, and the opponent knockdown is going to be greatly increased. So look how long he's staying on the ground. I have enough time to kind of walk up and kind of jump in on them. So plenty of time to set up your wake up pressure. So pretty big, not big buff, but a somewhat good buff for him. Next up, the super for this, they're going to reduce the recovery on the hit. So basically after this, you have more time to kind of do your setup here. So more than enough time for me to kind of jump over and do a setup here. Now they're going to do the same thing for the EX version, increase opponent knockdown duration. So pretty much the same thing. Yeah, you got enough time to do a safe jump setup or even cross up. Lastly, Dinner of Dinosaur, which I think is the punch super. We just confirm that. Yeah, it is. So on block, so it's kind of the same thing with the EX Rekkas or whatever. If you can block all stages of this attack here. So previously, the last hit, you might get hit on it, and let me test the EX version. Actually, I think the EX version, you could still get hit by the last hit. No, actually, even on the EX version, you cannot get hit by the last hit or press in between. It's going to be a true block string now, which means that there is no risk of you botching your punish for pressing a button too early. Now you're going to get that guaranteed punish on King of Dinosaurs if he does that by mistake on block. So yeah, that's it for King of Dinosaurs and the rest of Team G.A.W. Not a whole lot of exciting changes for this team. I think this is a team that could use a little bit more buffs. Kind of like characters like Rio and Iori and some others got some pretty exciting stuff. So it would be nice to see that kind of expanded to this team. But yeah, that's it for Team G.A.W.